Hello, my name is Shonda and welcome to my channel, Black Girl Keto After Sleeve. So this video is about what is the ketogenic diet. Now, first of all, I am not a scientist. So I will not be explaining things in a sciencey way. If you want science, there are many other channels that can do that. Now, I watch a lot of channels that give you the science, but I don't think that I could coherently uh, reiterate that information back to you in the same way in which it was presented to me. So I am going to present this information in the way that I know and the way that I understand it. So first of all, the ketogenic diet is not really a diet. It's a way of living. It's a way of eating. So a lot of times you'll see it in chats and groups. You'll see ketogenic, WOE, for way of eating, because a lot of people have adopted this as a lifestyle and they intend to eat this way for the rest of their lives. And I'm one of those people. So basically, this is just a very, very, very low carb way of eating. Okay, so we eat anywhere from 0 to 50 carbs, depending on body tolerance. Now, some people have to eat closer to 0, and some people can eat a few more. If you are more physically active, if you lift weights, if you are younger, you may be able to eat more. If you started this, before you wrecked your metabolism, and wrecked your hormone system the way I did, maybe you can eat a few more. So basically, you eat moderate protein, which means you eat about, depending on your weight, 60 to 120 grams of protein, depending on who you ask, and depending on your size, and depending on your level of activity. I try to come in about 80 grams. If I can get in more, I will. Problem is, I've had a sleeve. So eating large amounts of food at one time are extremely difficult, especially large amounts of protein. So a lot of this it's an experiment, right? It's an experiment for me to see what works for me. But so we eat low carb, moderate protein, high fat. Now, the misconception is that you have to eat a lot of fat. You do not. You don't. Now, if you're doing this way of eating for a therapeutic purpose, so if your purpose is to help with seizures, because this is not a fat diet. This diet was founded in the 1920s for people with epilepsy, because they found that if they ate a high-fat diet and kept the protein and the carbs low, that it improved their seizures. But if you are just doing this for health or for weight loss, you are not required to eat a lot of fat. There are some that say you should eat 1 gram of protein for every 1 gram of fat for every gram of protein that you eat. I do not eat that way. Keto is not just all bacon and sausage and red meat. Although I like bacon and sausage and red meat, I don't eat it every day. So for me, I took the rules, right? Learned some science, and then applied the principles that I felt would work best for me. So for carbs, I can't eat bread. I can't eat bread. I can't eat rice. I can't eat potatoes. Or, well, I should say I choose not to eat rice, potatoes, and corn and things like that. But, sometimes I do. I cook potatoes for my family, and I'll cook the little small potatoes, and sometimes I might have 1 or 2 of them, the little mini potatoes. Sometimes I might make some rice and chili, and I want rice and chili, and so I'll eat a little bit of that. But I just don't get carried away with it, and I just keep it small. But the way I keto is I keep the carbs low. I don't count them anymore because I've been doing this for such a long time. I really don't count them anymore. Let me get a little bit more into some of the tenets of this way of eating. A lot of people combine this with intermittent fasting. That is certainly something that you can do. Intermittent fasting is where you go a period of the day where you don't eat. Okay, so it's like you still eat every day, but instead of eating all day, you eat 1, 2, 3 times a day instead of grazing all day. Because what this diet does, it basically converts your body from burning carbohydrate for energy to burning fat for energy, or ketones, right? Because if you eat the standard American diet, you eat a lot of carbohydrates, your body is used to it, that's what it runs off of. When you stop eating those carbohydrates, your body is like, what are you doing? Where is my bread? Where's my pasta? Where's my rice? Okay, we need it. We need it. And it will trigger your body to force you to eat it. It will make you eat it. You will be so hungry. You will feel sick. Some people call it carbohydrate withdrawal, right? Before I had ever heard of the keto flu, I had heard of carbohydrate withdrawal. And basically that's what this is. It's like your body is saying, I'm used to you eating carbohydrates. You've stopped eating them. We don't like that. So we're going to trigger this chain reaction in your body and trigger cravings. And so you have to find ways to get around those cravings. One thing people use is electrolytes. But we'll get into electrolytes in a second. So once you get past that, you no longer have any carbohydrate floating around. You might have a little, but not a lot because you haven't been eating any. So once your body gets used to that, once your body says, okay, she was eating carbs, she stopped, now she's eating them, now she's not eating them anymore. We need to find another way to create energy. We need to find another way to sustain the body and the brain. So your body starts to produce something called ketones, and then your brain will run off of those. And it is argued, or can be argued, that your brain runs better off of ketones than it does off of sugar from carbohydrates. That's a lot of sciencey stuff that I don't know. Okay, just something that I've read, but I could not explain to you the science. So, okay, so we get past that. And your body's producing ketones. Your body starts to produce these ketones, and these ketones will, because it doesn't know how many you need yet. It's a new process. It's not used to producing ketones and running off of them. It's not used to that. So initially it's going to make too many because it doesn't know how much it needs. And that is where you find ketone urine strips. Once you've been doing this for a while, your body doesn't necessarily make extra anymore. And you might not be able to see your ketones in a urine strip. You might have to use a blood test if you want to test. I sometimes test. I sometimes don't. I have a meter, but I have not tested in a few weeks. And before that, I hadn't tested in a few weeks. It's just not something, it was something that I wanted to play with, but that's for another day. So your body starts to run on these ketones. And in the absence of, so now you don't have this carbohydrate, right? And so in the absence of carbohydrate, your insulin doesn't need to spike. Every time you eat, you need insulin. Well, your body produces insulin every time you eat. And then your body makes, I'm sorry, I'm saying this wrong. Every time you eat, your blood sugar goes up, and then your body has to make insulin to get that glucose down. So you eat, your blood glucose goes up, your body produces insulin to make your blood glucose go back down. So that's what your body does. Another thing about insulin is that insulin is saying, hey, we've got food, so we need to store it. Insulin is a fat storing hormone. Why is it like that? I don't know. That's more sciencey stuff that I don't have knowledge of, right? But the insulin will say, hey, we're here. And if we're here, we're storing food. But if you can eat without spiking the glucose and without spiking the insulin, then that insulin isn't there telling your body to store. And so then your body can access its own fat stores. And so that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to get our body to burn its own fat. And it doesn't really want to do that. So you kind of got to push it a little bit. You got to make it a little bit. And so one of the worst things that you can do is eat 5 times a day. That's, oh, you should just, eat as soon as you wake up. You should eat a meal, eat a small meal, eat 6 small meals a day to kind of keep your metabolism going. That is a fallacy, because every time you eat, you are telling your body to store. So you need to have periods where you don't eat. Now, we used to do this naturally. Think back. I was raised by my grandparents. My grandparents were born in 1937 and 1939, respectively. When I was a kid, my grandmother was 30, 40. They ate breakfast, they ate lunch, and they ate dinner. And that was it. They did not snack in between meals. Sometimes after dinner, they would have a little snack. And do you know what they snacked on? Pork rinds, peanuts, pecans, walnuts. Was there a random potato chip around the house? Sure. Was there a random cookie around the house? Sure. But not many. I don't know if you guys remember, but there used to be these Archway cookies that were like molasses cookies, and they were big, and you only got 6 in the pack. Once or twice a month, my grandmother would buy 1 6-pack of cookies. These people did not eat sugar because they knew that it wasn't good for you. And somewhere along the line, we lost that. In addition to the sugar is processed food and ultra-processed food. People look at other countries that eat lots of bread, and they look at us that we eat lots of bread, and they don't understand why they eat bread and they're okay and we're not. Well, number one, we're not eating the same bread. Okay, the way we've processed our wheat and our flour, we've taken everything good out of it and just really left the starch. So every time we're eating, our body is saying, hey, there's food, we need to deal with this food. But when you eat stuff that is super processed, your body can't really recognize it as food and then make the appropriate hormonal response. When you go to McDonald's and you eat a burger, that is ultra processed food. It has been processed and broken down and enhanced to the fact where your body can't recognize it in the same way. And the way that I can kind of prove it to myself is like, you ever notice that you can eat more of some things than other things? Like if you are eating meat, potatoes, broccoli, there's a limit to how much you can eat before your body is like, whoa, stop. We can't eat anymore. Even like fruit, bananas, apples, there's a limit where your body is like, whoa. We cannot eat another apple. It just, there's a limit to where it stops you. That same limit for processed foods is much higher. When you think of how many calories of McDonald's you can eat, even after a sleeve, I can put away a whole large fry at one time. I can put away probably 75% of a Big Mac. So if you give me a Big Mac and a medium fry, I can probably eat half of it and then wait 30 minutes and eat the other half. That's what, 1,000 calories, something like that, right? You give me a piece of steak, a baked potato, a small baked potato, and some broccoli, and I cannot finish that. I can't finish that. I couldn't even eat half of it. And to try to go back to it 30 minutes later, I would not be able to do that. I would be like, no, I'm full still. Your body will send signals. It will send signals to you to stop eating if you don't eat processed food. So that's another big tenet of this program, or it should be, at least in its initial form, was no processed food. And especially no ultra processed food. That's super hard in today's day and age, but that's okay. That's okay. Do I still eat McDonald's sometimes? Sure. But not very often. Not very often. And usually I get the same thing. I'll get a Big Mac. I'll get a number one with a Diet Dr. Pepper. And I'll eat it. And it's probably going to be all I eat that day, though. So I will say this. If I decide to indulge and I go to McDonald's or I go to Waffle House, that's going to be the only thing I eat that day. I'll split it in half. I'll eat half then and half later. And then that's that. So what else is there about keto? What else do you need to know? I mean, those are the basic tenets. Low carb, moderate protein, high fat, but you don't have to eat high fat. Eat fat to get full. And if you're full, don't eat more fat. So, for instance, if I'm going to have a small steak and some broccoli, or let's say a chicken breast. Let's say I'm going to have a chicken breast. Because some people think just because you're on keto, you can't eat chicken breast. Everything has to be fatty cuts of meat. It doesn't. You can add fat to your meat that is healthy. You can add healthy fat to your food. So you can take your lean chicken breast and drizzle a tablespoon of olive oil over it, or your broccoli. Take your broccoli and add a tablespoon of olive oil. Take your chicken breast and add, half a sliced avocado. That way you're adding fat to keep you full, but you're not eating red meat or any of the other foods that people are afraid to eat. Now, just FYI, saturated fat does not cause cholesterol to go up. The government, this is the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, quietly removed the saturated fat restriction from the pyramid, or whatever their guidance is, whatever it looks like. It used to say, don't eat eggs and don't eat red meat and don't eat that stuff because dietary cholesterol raises your cholesterol. They quietly removed that guidance. It is no longer there because there is absolutely zero scientific evidence that says that eating eggs or cheese is going to raise your cholesterol. So that's just, little tidbit there. So, because that was the keto thing that I could never quite get used to in the beginning. It was like when I was reading and people were making fat bombs, just eating fat. And I'm like, I don't want to eat that. Not because I'm afraid of it, but I don't want it. I don't want it. It doesn't appeal to me whatsoever. So I made some, I literally made some almond butter fat bombs and put them in a mason jar in my refrigerator. And I think I might have eaten 2. So you don't really have to. What I would say is when you're first starting out, this is what I would do. When you first start out, cut the carbs and eat as much protein and fat as you want until you get past the carb cravings. Once you get past the carb cravings, then you can start dialing back the protein and dialing back the fat. But to start, eliminate the carbohydrate. Don't be afraid of salt. because you will lose more salt. When you lose the carbohydrates, you lose the salt. That is why the water, you lose the water weight. Just about on any diet that you are on, any diet. That first week, you lose like 5 pounds, right? You lose a lot of weight that first week. And everybody says it's water weight. But why is it water weight? It's because in most diets, there is some automatic reduction of calories. And because you are reducing calories, you are automatically reducing carbohydrates. Because when we're dieting, we try not to eat a lot of rice and bread, right? When we're dieting in the traditional way. So you are cutting your carbohydrates. And when you cut your carbohydrates, you are eliminating salt and water retention from your body. So when you eat this way, you have to replace that salt in some way, shape, or form. You got to eat it. You can't be afraid to eat it. So you can take electrolytes. And the electrolytes also help with that carbohydrate withdrawal. So even if you're not going to do a ketogenic diet and you are on a regular diet, but you have cut your carbs down and you are feeling lethargic, you might just need a little salt. I recommend high quality salt, Himalayan pink salt, or some type of electrolyte drink. I've tried a few. I think I tried one by Flyby, and I tried the one by Dr. Berg. I've recently ordered the one from Element. I ordered a sample pack from them. One of the channels I watched, Mr. Thomas DeLauer, he had a program, or he has a sponsorship or whatever, or with Element, and he was offering a free starter pack. You just had to pay for shipping. So you got like 8 packs, and you just had to pay $5 shipping. So I ordered that because I wanted to try it. And what else? What else is there? I feel like I'm rambling. Yeah, that's it. Ketogenic diet is just a way of eating where you restrict carbohydrates to 50 grams or less. Less is generally better unless you are physically active, and where you eat a moderate amount of protein, about 1 gram per pound of lean body weight, and then fat in an amount to keep you full. Simple as that. Well, that's it for me, and have a great day. I will see you next video.